So I think the next section I want to talk about is let's imagine someone gets through the resume screening phase. So they've done the right things, no red flags triggered. We decide to bring them on for a conversation with the hiring manager. What are the things you touched on them a little bit, but let's go a bit deeper and double click. Like, what are the things you look for in that hiring manager call that that allow you to get excited and say we should bring this person to the onsite? And maybe Nikki, maybe you'll go first, and then we'll have maybe Stephanie and Chantal.
Yeah. I think for me, I'm asking a number of different questions and just like really picking at their experience to make sure that it's relevant. Another thing to think about is if you are applying for a job and your experience it literally does not meet the requirements, don't do that. Like we put the requirements out there as it's an important filter because that's truly what we're looking for. And so I like to make sure and just confirm that people actually are going to meet the requirements. So I spend a lot of time on that. Another thing that I've been asking is just kind of probing with people a little about how they're learning and using AI. We are starting to use AI more in our development process and just like the ways in which we work. And so making sure people are like at least curious. They don't need to be proficient yet because none of us really are. But I think that's been a change for me too, to just make sure people are learning and they know what's going on. And so I ask those questions too. And then I think the biggest things for me is I'm just kind of trying to make sure that like if we're going to bring you on fully for an onsite, it's worth your time and it's worth our time. So again, it's just picking at your requirements, like, are you actually going to be able to come in and do the job? And then just honestly, some of it's just also just getting to know you. Like, why are you interested in Duolingo? Um, Another thing that I look for that you would be surprised at how few people do this. This is a red flag for Nikki. Is if I will say Duolingo, I'm hiring Duolingo for math, right? Where you would be working on Duolingo's math product, and then you do not try Duolingo's math product and you can say nothing about it. Don't do that. Like just try it. It takes 4 minutes and it's free. I know that's harder if you're trying to work for like a B2B company or a SaaS company. Like it's a little bit harder to try the product. But Duolingo, it's free and it's easy to download. So do that and then have an opinion on it because then we can talk about it and then I'm going to be excited about our conversation and I'm going to advance you to the next step.
Incredible, thank you. I forget who I said goes next, but I see Stephanie unmuted, so you
Oh
can go.
yeah, I think I was the middle. I'm a middle
Okay.
too, so always jumping right in the middle. Okay, cool. So mine is really, yeah, I guess similar actually to what Nikki was saying. It's really calibrating against basically the job description, making sure that this person can sort of like tick the critical boxes. I'm also starting to like calibrate a bit for level. Because sometimes it can be hard to discern from resumes and titles alone. And generally like getting signal on like team fit. Could I see this person like being successful here in this group? And like this exact seat I'm hiring for, basically, like how well do they fit that? I very much appreciate when people, so at Stripe in particular, actually friction logging, we call it, is a common practice that we all do on, I mean, candidly, some weeks it's like a daily practice, but where you go through and you use the product and you note things that strike you as suboptimal from a user experience perspective. So that is delightful when candidates have already started messing around with the product and have opinions. Um, yeah, and then folks who, another thing that I also believe is important, especially working in like a highly regulated space like tax and some of my previous roles, is sort of an understanding of like how people learn complex and complicated areas, basically. Like, so what is their approach to sort of like if you don't have to be a tax expert to join the team. In fact, like I think actually I think none of my PMs and myself included, none of us are. But it's more like how do you go deep and how do you learn a space that's like really broad and really deep. And then lastly, sometimes I will kind of try to feel out. I'll ask like, describe to me like, what you love about product management, and then describe to me what you absolutely hate about product management. And like different companies might hit on different notes, right? And so if I hear someone describe like, everything, the things they hate about product management, I'm like, oh, well, like we are a really intense culture and, work-life balance isn't, always the best here, whichever or whatever it is, right? Then that helps me just kind of understand, like, is this person really going to be happy, taking this role or whatever it is?
Super helpful. Chantal, you want to round out this question, then we'll do our final question and open up for Q&A.
Yeah, a lot of great things. I actually love the thinking deep. Stephanie, me and Ben were talking about the 0 day. Like, it's a very important thing. How do you go into unpacking complex things, and how do you learn is very important. A couple of things for me. Genuine curiosity in the product. Going back to what Nikki said, but honestly, it's crazy how many people are like, I would love to work at Altic, and you're like, okay, so what is your favorite feature in the product? Or like, tell me more about like, and they don't ask any questions. Like at the end, I always leave 5 to 10 minutes for questions, and they generally ask me questions about what is your AI policy governance, or and I'm like, okay, do you not have questions about the team or the product? So that is usually kind of a red flag for me, actually. Like, ask me about what the role, like what are the challenges in the role? Like, ask me about what are some of the potential risks of working on this, or the challenges that I may encounter, right? So that is very important. Culture. So if this person's communication style does not align with how we communicate, or they're just like too aggressive, or that will be a thing that I'll be calibrating and looking at as well as your communication. Like, while I do think that there's levels, I'm always looking for someone who can communicate clearly. I think I have too many examples of candidates I talk to, and I'm trying to take notes, and I would love to hear actually from Nikki and Stephanie in this, but I'm trying to take note into like, give me an example on a feature that you launch, for example. And for lead PM, I'm asking about like, how did you decide this was the right thing to build? So walk me through that, like upper funnel in the decision process. And I don't understand what they're saying. Like, I can't take notes. Like, I'm like, so what is the feature? What is the problem you're trying to solve? Like, and why was this a problem worth solving for? Like, what is the data behind it? Or like, why this versus something else? And I'm just poking at it gently, and I'm like, it's breaking apart. And I'm like, that's, but so many of those examples happen. So I would think, make sure that, when you're talking about an experience, that you really are clear, articulate, and you actually like, if it's for a lead PM or staff PM or principal PM, you need to be able to explain that, right? Like, I chose this feature, or like I chose this problem, and this is why this problem was worth solving for, and this was the goal, and this is how I would measure it, and this is what I did about, right? That is like, it seems so simple. And I actually say that in an interview. I'm like, hey, I'm going to ask you in 2 minutes after the introduction about a feature, and I want you to walk me through like your decision process. I'm like, why did you decide this was worth building, and what's the problem? And literally structure it for them. And like 90% of the people do not do this well. So I just want to reiterate how important that is, especially for more senior roles.
Awesome.